My brother tried to steal the house my parents left me. After everything I sacrificed to protect it, he came back years later, broke and entitled, thinking he could take it with a smile and a legal notice. My name's Adam Walker, and this is how I reminded him what loyalty actually looks like. Before we get started, where are you tuning in from? Are you in the middle of the morning rush or on a late-night drive? Drop a comment below. You're about to hear everything that happened after I made the choice that changed everything. Growing up, I never expected to be the one who stayed behind. I've spent the last 2 decades living in the same house where I learned to ride a bike, where my mom made her famous peach cobbler every Sunday, and where my dad taught me how to fix a leaky faucet before I even hit high school. That house isn't just wood and drywall to me. It's a memory bank. Every creak in the floorboards, every scratch on the kitchen table, it all holds stories of the people who loved me fiercely and asked only one thing in return: take care of our home when we're gone. My younger brother Eric couldn't get away fast enough. Right after college, he left for Los Angeles, chasing big dreams, fast money, and, in his words, a life with fewer strings attached. We were never hostile, just different. I stayed behind to help care for our parents when the illnesses came. First Dad's heart condition, then Mom's stroke. I was there for every hospital ride, every grocery run, every lonely holiday when Eric sent a card instead of showing up. Before they passed, my parents made it clear: the house would be mine. Not in a grand favoritism kind of way, but because I was the one who made it a home. It was understood. They didn't even need to explain it. So I kept their promise. I paid off the lingering debts, took a second job when the roof needed replacing, and turned their garden into a quiet sanctuary where I could sit after long days, remembering them. I never questioned the sacrifice. I didn't have to. The house gave back in ways money never could. It was stability. It was peace. It was mine. Then Eric called. After 10 years of near silence, he called. At first, I thought he just missed home. Maybe he was ready to reconnect. Maybe even grieve together now that the dust had settled. But the second he started asking questions about the house, what it was worth now, how long I planned to live there, whether I'd considered selling, I felt that old knot of suspicion tighten in my chest. He didn't ask how I'd been, didn't mention Mom or Dad, just the house. I should have known then what was coming, but I didn't. Not yet. All I knew was that I'd built a life around a promise, and now my brother, who ran from everything, wanted to walk back in and cash out on what I protected. He had no idea what I'd been through to keep that house standing, and he was about to learn exactly why I wasn't letting it go. I wish I could say I was surprised when Eric showed up unannounced on my front porch 3 weeks after that strange phone call, but part of me had already started bracing for it the moment he hung up. Still, seeing him in person after 10 years was jarring. He looked older, tired, like life had taken a few punches at him and he hadn't dodged well. His once perfectly styled hair was now disheveled, his suit wrinkled, and his smile rehearsed. "Hey, big brother," he said, lifting a duffel bag as if to ask permission to enter. I hesitated for a beat. Then, out of habit or maybe guilt, I stepped aside and let him in. Eric hadn't been inside our parents' house since Mom's funeral. As he walked through the hallway, his eyes scanned the photos on the wall, the ones he hadn't bothered to help hang or dust over the years. He stopped at the framed picture of us on the front porch when we were kids, squinting at it like he couldn't quite place the memory. "You've kept everything the same," he said quietly. I nodded. That was the promise. We made small talk for the first hour, surface-level updates, his failed startup, the divorce, the apartment he couldn't afford anymore. He talked about LA like it was a lover who'd grown cold, and I just listened, sipping coffee and watching him circle the conversation like a hawk. Then it came. "So, this place must be worth a decent amount now, huh?" he asked, glancing toward the front yard. There it was. I set my mug down, slowly. "Not interested in selling, if that's where this is going." Eric gave a half-hearted laugh. "I didn't say that. But come on, Adam. You're living in a 2,500 square foot house alone. Doesn't that seem like a waste?" "It's not a waste if it's home." He raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes had already gone sharp. "I'm just saying. Maybe it's time to think about the future. We could split the money. Start fresh." I stared at him, the weight of 10 years of sacrifice pressing heavy on my chest. "We?" "There's no we here, Eric. You left. You weren't here when Dad fell. You weren't here when I had to pick up Mom off the bathroom floor. You weren't here when we buried them." His jaw tensed, but he didn't argue. "You don't get to come back now and cash in on something you abandoned." He leaned back on the couch, pretending to be unfazed. "I have rights too, Adam. It was our parents' house, not just yours." I stood up then, needing space, air, something. "You can stay a couple nights while you figure things out, but don't mistake my hospitality for permission." He nodded, but the chill in the room was palpable. Eric didn't come home for nostalgia. He came for the house, and he wasn't planning on leaving empty-handed. Eric stayed longer than a couple nights. 1 week turned into 2, then a month. Every time I asked about his job hunt or next steps, he had a vague excuse. "Just waiting to hear back," he'd say. Or, "I've got a few things in motion." But it was clear he had no plan, at least not one he was telling me. He spent his days lounging in Dad's old recliner, flipping through channels like he owned the place. And every time I brought up boundaries, he'd brush it off with a smirk and say, "Relax, Adam. This is still our house." That word again. Our. One afternoon I came home from work and found Eric walking the perimeter of the property with a man in a blazer and shiny shoes. They were talking quietly, pointing at the fence line, the garage, the roof. I stepped out of my truck and called his name. "Who's this?" I asked, my tone sharper than I meant it to be. Eric looked mildly annoyed. "This is Peter. He's just giving me a rough appraisal for context." "Context for what?" He didn't answer. The man gave a tight smile, shook my hand without meeting my eyes, and made a hasty exit. That night, the argument finally broke. Words we'd been swallowing for years came spewing out like poison. "You're squatting in a gold mine, Adam," Eric yelled across the kitchen table. "You've got no wife, no kids. What do you need a place this big for? Mom and Dad would have wanted both their sons to benefit." "They wanted me to take care of it," I snapped. "And I have. For 25 damn years." "You're being selfish." "No, you're being opportunistic." That was the last real conversation we had. The next day he left while I was at work. No note, no message. 2 weeks later a certified letter arrived. From Eric's lawyer. He was contesting the will. I sat on the porch in stunned silence, the envelope trembling in my hands. According to the letter, Eric claimed our parents had only verbally promised me the house, that nothing had been legally finalized before their passing. He was requesting a court-ordered sale of the property and a 50-50 split of the proceeds. I felt gutted. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way he weaponized our family's history, turned my devotion into something dirty. I'd poured my life into preserving this home, keeping it alive like it was a living part of them. And now he wanted to slice it up like it was nothing but equity. The worst part? There was just enough truth in his claim to make things complicated. The deed had never been officially transferred into my name. Our parents had started the process but passed before it was finalized. I'd never questioned it. I didn't think I had to. But Eric did. And he'd just fired the first legal shot in a war I never asked for. Now I had to decide if I was ready to fight back. And something inside me already knew the answer. After the letter, I didn't sleep much. Every creak in the house, every gust of wind through the maple trees outside, reminded me of what was at stake. Not just walls and beams, but history, legacy. The kind of quiet love my parents had built into this place with every photo hung, every tool stored in the garage, every casserole baked on Sundays. And now my own brother was trying to dismantle it with a lawyer's pen. The next morning I made a call I never thought I'd need to. Deborah Coleman, our old neighbor, had been our family's attorney for decades. Wills, paperwork, little odds and ends. She had retired 3 years ago, but still took the occasional case. "Adam Walker," she said when she answered, her voice warm with familiarity. "Haven't heard that name in a while." I told her everything. From the moment Eric came back to the moment he left, and the letter that followed. There was a pause. Then, "You should have come to me the day they passed." "I know," I said quietly. I thought the promise was enough. Love makes us believe that sometimes. But paper talks in court. Deborah agreed to represent me. She helped me gather every scrap of documentation, emails from Dad about the house, handwritten notes Mom had left in her recipe books referring to it as Adam's someday, and even a voicemail I'd saved from 2 weeks before her stroke where she said, "Promise me you'll keep the garden alive. It's all yours now." It wasn't airtight, but it was something. Eric's side pushed hard. His new attorney was aggressive, sending demand letters with deadlines and veiled threats of dragging things out in probate. They counted on me being passive, being meek. But what they didn't count on was how hard I would fight for something I'd already bled for. I worked full-time during the day and spent my nights reviewing every legal filing Deborah sent me. I cataloged receipts, photos, timestamps from home repairs. I even pulled utility records to show consistent payments in my name since our parents passed. "This isn't just a house," Deborah told me one night over a stack of documents. "This is a lifetime of stewardship. That matters." We filed a motion challenging Eric's claim with supporting affidavits from neighbors who'd witnessed the conversations between my parents and me. People who remembered my dad telling them, "Adam's the one keeping this place going. It'll be his one day." The turning point came when Deborah found a draft amendment to the will tucked inside a folder our parents had left at her office, unsigned but dated only 3 weeks before Dad died. It clearly outlined their intention to leave the house solely to me. It wasn't legally binding, but it spoke volumes. And in court, sometimes intention is enough to shift the scales. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Like I wasn't just reacting, I was standing. Not out of anger, but out of love. For them. For everything this home had meant. And for myself. Because no one, not even blood, gets to take that from me without a fight. The final court date came on a rainy Thursday in late October, the kind of day that felt heavy with meaning, even before it began. Eric sat across from me in the courtroom, dressed in the same slick confidence he'd always worn like armor. His lawyer shuffled papers, whispering fast and low. But Eric? He didn't look at me once. I wasn't nervous, not anymore. I'd already lived through the worst part, his betrayal. The paperwork, the hearings, even the cross-examinations, they were just noise compared to the silence I'd endured in the months after Mom and Dad passed. That was the real storm. This was just the cleanup. The judge took her time reading through the evidence, the utility records, the testimonies, the amendment to the will. Deborah's voice had been steady in the courtroom, her arguments clear, respectful, and razor-sharp. And when she read Mom's voicemail aloud, there wasn't a sound in the room. "I find in favor of Mr. Walker," the judge finally said, voice firm. "The estate's intention, though not finalized through formal deed transfer, is clear in its documentation and long-term stewardship. The house will remain in his sole possession. My chest didn't rise in victory. It rose in relief. Eric stood up too quickly, his chair screeching back. For a split second I thought he'd say something, but he just walked out. That was our last conversation. Or rather, the absence of one. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. No return address, just his name at the bottom. A few lines scribbled in uneven handwriting. I thought I deserved something. Maybe I didn't. Guess I didn't know what it cost you. I won't bother you again. Eric. I read it twice, then folded it and slid it into the back of the family photo album. Not forgiveness, not closure, but something like understanding. The house was quiet again, and for once it wasn't lonely. I started planting new things in the garden, not to preserve the past, but to honor it while growing something new. Sunflowers, tomatoes, a row of lavender just under Mom's old kitchen window. I opened the living room for art nights with the local high school, just like Mom always wanted. Every Thursday, a few kids came by with sketch pads and acrylic paints, laughter echoing through the halls that had once felt like a museum of memories. The dining room, Dad's pride and joy, now hosted community potlucks, the kind where no one left hungry and everybody left with a story. I didn't just keep the house, I brought it back to life. There's a kind of healing that doesn't come with apologies. It comes with reclaiming what you almost lost, setting your own boundaries, and deciding who gets to be part of your story moving forward. This house? It's still full of memories. But now, they're mine to shape. And this time, no one's taking it from me. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult family decision that changed everything? We'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment below. We read every single one. If you're into real-life family drama like this, make sure to subscribe for more.